My name is Christofer Johnsson, I play in Therion, and you're listening to What's Metal.
How was the tour so far?
We had really good response actually, but I was expecting bigger crowds, to be honest. We had an average like 400 people a show, which is a bit low because when we did the tour with the Morphis, we had an average of 600-700 a night, and I think we would pull the same crowd if we did this headline. So I'm a little bit disappointed because if we were going headline, there would be a smaller entrance price, and we would pull the same kind of people, I guess. But the reactions from the crowds has been really, really good for Therion, especially. So I'm still though pretty happy.
Are there other differences to a normal tour?
Yeah, it's more stressy with the sound check, and there's too many bands, so you don't get a proper backstage. You have to spend most of the time in a bus, and you get the backstage like an hour before you go on stage, because there's so many bands, otherwise it wouldn't fit. Well, of course the three biggest bands could kick out the other bands, but we don't like that kind of stuff, so we're trying to treat everybody equal.
And how long are you allowed to play?
We're playing 45 minutes, which is okay because, well, maybe we would like to play 50, but that's 5 minutes here and there. We don't care. 45 minutes is pretty long when there's 6 bands, because the stupid thing with this festival, running all of like, if you have an open air festival, it's one different thing, because then it's summer and people can relax, just sit in the grass drinking a beer. But when you do it winter time or early springtime or whatever this is, when it's cold and it's inside, people are very tired when the last band play, and usually they get too late to see the first band. So if everyone shortens the set a bit, it's gonna be more democratic. It's gonna be more people that still want to hang around when the last band play.
After or even before the last tour you did, you said that you will never go on tour again with Therion because it's too difficult to get all the musicians. Why are you on tour again?
That was actually a misunderstanding. I get a question which I misunderstood, because this is the last album we're gonna tour at. We did a tour for that album, Theli, and we can do it 100 times if we like for Theli, but for future albums I don't think we're gonna tour.
And why?
Because the songs I'm writing is more complicated, and right now we're 8 people on stage, and we're still losing money. Well, we get really good paid, we have a really good gage, but still we're losing money because we need some better equipment, and we have to pay off choirs, really expensive. I mean, those choirs, they don't do rock music normally, they never even sang to rock music before. One is a real opera singer, and the other one is more like a musical artist singer, but she can handle the opera range. And well, it's possible that we might do one very last tour, because we're gonna release some kind of 10th anniversary album. Therion's been going on for 10 years now, so we're gonna release a special album. It's a digipack with 70 minutes of music. We're selling it for a lower price, so everyone can afford to buy it. And we might do a last jubileum tour, the very, very last one, officially the last one. And there will be some festivals this summer, I guess, but that's about it.
For your last album, I could read that you've got a lot of advances to produce it. Is it possible for you to earn money with this CD, or is it everything you earn to pay back the advances?
Well, it's 2 different kinds of money. You get a royalty as for being a musician, and all expenses such as doing videos, tour support, and recordings are recoupable expenses, which means that they draw it off your royalty before you get money. So we need to sell, I don't know, we sold like 42,000 records in Europe only now, plus America, plus Japan. I don't have the figures from there. And we're about, breaking even. So we have to sell much more if we're going to get rich from it. But there's another kind of money called publishing, which is the composer get. And I'm doing most of the composing, so I make pretty good money on it still, I would say.
So you can live on the money you earn with Therion?
I've been living from music for 4.5 years. But I do have a company at home as well, so doing small things like releasing an album. It's not really a record company, it's more like if it's a good band that deserves a record deal, no one wants to sign them. And I really, really like it myself. Then I pay the recording expenses, and I sell the master tape to another company and just get a percentage for it. So I've been able to get some bucks from that as well. and I did some music publishing as well. Published their songs, and I did some film music for a movie. I wrote some classic music for an art movie, and I get pretty well paid to do that as well. And for a while I was in Messiah, which is a band from Switzerland, so I get some money from that as well. So a lot of different sources has made me a pretty good living. But on the other hand, I would make more money on any kind of job, so you're not getting rich from playing rock and roll, but it's at least you can sleep as long as you want in the morning, and you get free beers on the tour. So
as you have played in Messiah, did you have to live in Switzerland, or have you taken a plane?
I was going there for periods from rehearsing, so I was living in Switzerland for smaller periods, like 1.5 months at the longest, I think, if I remember it correctly.
And of what members does Therion consist now as you're playing live? Are these all just session musicians or full-time members?
It's mainly session musicians, because when we did Theli, we didn't plan on doing a tour at all. We just wanted to do a studio album, and that's it. So the drummer, he had other plans, so he wasn't available for the last tour we did with Amorphis. And then I hired another drummer, and the bass player was still with us then, but he really became an alcoholic on that tour, so I had to fire him because he didn't do his job anymore, and he didn't care when we tried to speak to him. He just said fuck off, so we had to fire him. And of course all the choir people just hired, and the guitarist that played on the album, he was fired even before we got on tour, also because of really, really heavy alcohol problems, which is sad, but that's the way it is. And now the drummer is back on this tour, but as a singer, because he did a lot of singing on the album, and as we're gonna record in Hamburg, we're gonna do some live recordings, so we wanted to have the original singer on it, so it's gonna sound more like the album. So it's me and one of the choir singers are the only Therion people, actually. But the people I hired are a few of my best friends, the other guitarist and the drummer, so we get along really well. And the bass player that played on this tour is the old Therion bass player that he played on the Symphony of Masses album. It's fun that he was with us during the hard years, when we still climbing upwards. So it's fun that he could go with us when we were a popular band.
What does Theli mean?
It means dragon in Hebrew language.
It seems to be a trademark of Therion to use foreign languages. On the back of the Theli album, on the inlay, there is a text in different languages, I think. What is this for text, and what's the meaning of it?
The same text was on the third album, Symphony of Masses, for Dragon Omegas as well. Exactly the same one, because that's the lyrics for the title track of Dragon Omegas. So it's just the lyric. There's 4 different languages. I think the first one is, too much hangover today to remember. The second one is Hebrew. The first one is Enochian, and the third one is Egyptian hieroglyphs, and the last one is ancient Greek with Thebanian letters.
And you know all these languages, or where you get the translation from?
One of my very best friends is studying at the university. We call it religious history, so he's very good at it. I've done some small translations myself, but he do it much, much better. He have done 90% of all the not English spoken lyrics.
So the original text, I think perhaps it's English or something, is nowhere available.
No, it's a part of the thing, basically all the lyrics are very personal, and even if they're written in English, people say they don't understand it, so I think there's no use to translate it to English, because they're very, very personal, and I don't expect anyone to understand them. It's more, if we don't write the English spoken lyrics on the inner sleeve or the booklet for the CDs, people is gonna write me a lot of letters and, hey, we want the lyrics, and I have to copy it and send it, so, well, here's the lyrics. Understand it or not, it's not really my problem.
The releases of your EPs contain normally 3 out of 4 songs that are already on your long player. Isn't this a rip-off?
Well, no one is forcing people to buy it. I mean, and also it's different versions. Like on the Siren of the Woods, it's different versions. It's like the song Siren of the Woods itself. It's some additional keyboards. It's a shorter song. Siren of the Woods is a really good song for airplay, but it's too long, so we did the shorter version for the single. And no, we can't release two versions on the album, right? So we have to pick one of them for the album and one for the single. Otherwise, we won't be possible to play it in radio. The introduction for the song was too long. And the same thing with Cults of a Shadow. We had two versions, and we liked both of them. So we liked one a little bit more, and we put it on the album, and the other one on the single. And there was one leftover track, which was, it's a good track, but didn't really fit to be released on the album, so we put it on a single instead. And well, if you're a fanatic, you want it for collection or something, then you can buy it, and then it doesn't matter what songs on it if you're going to collect it. But for just normal listeners, I don't think they buy that kind of stuff. Also, if you're going to introduce yourself to more, well, let's say commercial, not really commercial, more mainstream listening markets, you have to use singles, because radio stations usually play more from singles than from albums. And also, if you send an album, you don't know what they play. Maybe they take a song which you think is not the best at all for the airplay. If you do a single, you put the songs you want them to play there and send it away. So it's just a way of marketing, and the price for the singles is very, very low. So I don't think it's a rip-off at all. I mean, if you think it's a rip-off, don't buy it. I mean, I wouldn't buy it if I thought it was a rip-off. I never buy singles myself.
I heard that you play the Dynamo Open Air. Is that right?
Yeah. The thing is, there's 3 dates, and they want us to play the 16th. And I'm not sure if we are available at that time, but for 99.99999% we're gonna do it. It's just that we might have to change someone from the choir then if she can't do it at that time. And I'm not sure if it would be worth it for just one show, but it seems like we're gonna do it.
Will there be other open air gigs you'll do this summer?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do the Super Crash one in Germany, and I'm not sure. I don't think it's confirmed or anything, but I hope we could do the Full Force one as well. And we've been offered one in Austria and one in Belgium, so we'll see what happens with that.
Do you think you are a good musician, or how would you categorize your musical skills?
We're not the best musicians. It depends what you compare with. In the metal scene, we might be, pretty good musicians, but if you compare with more, let's say, Accept, Iron Maiden and those kind of bands, we're a bunch of wankers. I mean, if you compare with death metal musicians, I think we're pretty good, but it's like a universe of itself, the more extreme metal thing. Especially if you compare with these real good guitarists, like, well, Randy Rhoads is dead by now, but like Uli John Roth, the former Scorpions guitarist that played with Scorpions in the 70s, he does solo projects now. It's one of the best guitar players ever, If you compare to him, we're a piece of craps,
In the booklet I read that the producers of Theli are responsible for the programming. The programming of what?
We use an orchestra for most things, but when I have an idea, like, say I want a violin to play like this, and then the producers say, well, you can't get a violin to play like this, I'm sorry, the violin don't play at that range, or it's not possible to play that way, or whatever. And I say, okay, I want a violin to play that, so we take a sample, and then you program it.
Please tell us about the cover of Theli.
It's actually, what could you say, I don't know the English word for that. Well, you could just say it's a modern version of the ancient gods set, but it's, interpret. It's a modern interpret of the ancient Egyptian gods set. Because Set was, as all the other Egyptian gods, they had animal heads, but Set was an animal but you couldn't say what kind of animal it was. Either it's out dead, or either it was just a fantasy animal. So that leaves a lot of space, to interpret it in the way you want. You could create a lot of different things.
On the CD itself, there's a mosquito or a fly.
Yeah, that's the classic picture of Beelzebub.
Oh.
Just taken from our book. That's more a funny thing,
Yeah, I do not have any other questions. Do you have any comments you want to give our listeners?
Yeah, it's back to be nice and... sorry, too much hangover. It's nice to be back in Germany again.